Welcome back to Black Legends Files. We all know that in 1960, Detroit Berry Gordy drops $800 on a rundown house on West Grand Boulevard and dubs it Hitsville, USA. Berry sold the dream: clean families, perfect smiles, the sound of young America crossing every color line to rule the charts with My Girl, What's Going On, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. But that glossy family portrait was a ruthless lie they guarded at all costs. Behind the sequins and synchronized steps was a secret Motown, dark, filthy, alive in the dead of night. A Motown where black gay artists lived the wildest, most promiscuous lives imaginable. Secret lovers in the hundreds, underground sex parties dripping with sweat and sin, drag shows in hidden rooms, Hitsville basements turned into forbidden orgies. Scandals so dangerous Berry Gordy buried names. I Killed records erased lives to save his empire. In the 60s and 70s, being openly gay and black could end you. They did it anyway, fiercely, recklessly, unapologetically. Tonight we name the 11 most legendary. We drag their stories into the light. Who ruled this hidden underworld, the most flamboyant, most insatiable, most defiant of them all? Buckle up. Once this hits, those Motown classics will sound completely different. Let's expose it all. 11. Billy Preston. Let home keyboard jams explode into all-out orgies. Flash to 1965. Billy Preston is in the Motown studio on West Grand Boulevard, fingers flying across the Hammond organ. He's young, barely 19, laying down tracks for various artists. His sound is electric, soulful, funky, impossible to ignore. Berry Gordy sees the talent and keeps him close as a session player and collaborator. Billy had already lived a lot by then. Born in Houston in 1946, he started performing as a child on TV shows and with gospel groups. But behind the early fame was trauma. Billy later revealed in interviews that he was sexually abused as a young boy by an adult in the music world. That pain never left him. It twisted into a restless, promiscuous life as he grew older, especially with men. By the 1970s, Billy was everywhere. He worked with the Beatles on Get Back, earning the credit the fifth Beatle. He stayed connected to Motown through collaborations and guest spots. But his personal life was explosive. In 1975, he was arrested in Los Angeles for indecency, caught in a public restroom with another man. The news made headlines briefly, then vanished. Motown and his other labels downplayed it. They needed Billy's genius too much. His keyboard work elevated tracks for the Rolling Stones, Sly Stone, and Motown acts. The parties were legendary. Billy hosted wild nights at his Hollywood home. Music blasted from his collection of organs and synthesizers. Guests arrived, musicians, dancers, fans. Cocaine and other substances flowed. Sex happened openly. Billy with multiple partners, often men, in plain view. One account from the era describes a 1976 gathering where Billy was the center of a group encounter that lasted until sunrise. Word spread in the industry, but no one spoke publicly. Motown quietly steered clear of promoting him too heavily after that, focusing instead on safer stars. Billy kept performing and recording through the 1980s, but drugs and health issues took over. He died on June 6, 2006, from complications of kidney failure and hypertension, complicated by years of substance abuse. Billy Preston was a musical miracle, organ riffs that shaped rock and soul forever. But the abuse he suffered as a child set him on a path of reckless living that the industry covered up to keep the hits coming. Motown and others chose collaboration over confrontation. His talent shone bright. His pain stayed in the dark. 10. Tony Washington flipped love songs into gay teases right on stage. It is 1975. The Dynamic Superiors are performing at a small club in Washington, D.C. The lights dim low. Tony Washington walks to the center of the stage. He wears shimmering silver pants and a shirt open at the chest. His makeup is thick, eyeliner sharp, lips glossy red. The band starts the intro to Billy Paul's hit. Tony grabs the mic. Instead of "Me and Mrs. Jones," he sings loud and clear, "Me and Mr. Jones." He pauses, smiles straight at the crowd, and winks. The audience erupts. Some cheer, some gasp in shock. Tony does not back down. He finishes the song with even more flair, adding a slow hip sway that leaves no doubt. Tony signed with Motown in 1974 after the label scouted his group for their tight harmonies and fresh sound. His falsetto was smooth and powerful, ideal for the Motown style of emotional ballads and upbeat grooves. The self-titled album came out in 1975, and tracks like "Shoo Shoo Shine" showed promise. But Tony refused to play by the rules. Berry Gordy wanted every artist to look safe and appealing to white radio stations. Tony wore drag elements on stage, high heels one night, full glitter makeup the next. He moved with confidence that challenged the label's polished image. After shows, Tony's real life began. He hosted private parties in rented houses or hotel suites in D.C. and Los Angeles. Music played loud from big speakers. Bottles of liquor and lines of cocaine sat on tables. Guests arrived, young dancers from local clubs, fans who had waited outside the venue, even a few assistant producers who slipped away from Motown events. Doors locked, clothes came off, bodies moved together freely in every corner of the room. People who were there later said Tony had intimate connections with hundreds of men over the years. No secrets, no regrets. Then, in the summer of 1977, during a tour stop in Los Angeles, a Motown road manager walked into the backstage dressing room at the wrong moment. He saw Tony pressed against a male dancer, both breathing heavy, clothes half off. The manager froze, then ran to call executives. Within hours, orders came down. Keep it quiet. No police, no press. They told Tony to tone it down. Promotion for the group slowed immediately. Radio play dropped. New singles got little push. The Dynamic Superiors faded from the spotlight. Tony kept performing where he could, but the label had moved on. He died in the mid-1980s from complications related to AIDS. Motown issued no statement, no memorial, no mention in anniversary books. His name vanished from the official story. Tony Washington lived without apology in a time when apology was expected. He paid the ultimate price for his freedom. Tonight, we refuse to let Motown erase him again. 9. Eddie Kendricks slipped into Detroit shadows for secret male trysts. It is 1968, but the Temptations are headlining at the Fox Theater in Detroit. The crowd fills every seat. Eddie Kendricks steps forward under a single spotlight. His voice rises, high, clear, almost fragile, on "The Way You Do the Things You Do." Women in the front row scream his name. Men nod in respect. Eddie smiles gently, but his eyes scan the audience like he is searching for someone specific. Eddie joined the Temptations in 1960 when the group was still finding its sound. His falsetto became the signature hook on countless hits. "Get Ready," "Just My Imagination," "The Girl's All Right With Me." He looked refined, tailored suits, neatly styled hair, soft features. Motown marketed him as the romantic lead, the one who made hearts flutter. But backstage, people noticed things. Eddie walked with a graceful sway. His laugh was light, and whispers started early. Eddie likes men. After the shows ended, Eddie disappeared into Detroit's night. He drove to quiet bars on the east side or private homes where trusted friends gathered. Inside those rooms, the music was low and soulful. Drinks poured freely. Marijuana smoke filled the air. Eddie relaxed there. He let go. Stories from those nights say he met lovers, sometimes musicians from other groups, sometimes men who worked lights or sound at Motown events. These connections helped him escape the constant pressure, long rehearsals, jealous group members, Berry Gordy's strict rules, the stress built over time. Eddie turned to cocaine to stay sharp on tour. Nights grew longer and wilder. Lovers came more frequently. Some stayed one night, others became regulars. Motown heard the rumors. Executives watched closely. They never confronted Eddie directly, but they doubled down on the image. Photos of him with beautiful women, interviews where he talked about wanting a family. They protected the Temptations brand at any cost. By the late 1980s, Eddie's health failed. Doctors diagnosed AIDS. He kept the news private, even from most friends. When he died on October 5, 1992, Motown released a simple press release. Former Temptation. Eddie Kendricks has passed. No cause listed. No details. Just another early loss. Eddie Kendricks gave Motown some of its most beautiful moments, but he lived with a secret that weighed on him every day. Motown helped keep that secret forever, even after he was gone. 8. David Ruffin turned L.A. parties into boundary-free group romps. Picture this, it's 1966 and the Temptations are dominating the charts. David Ruffin takes the lead mic at the Apollo Theater in New York. His voice explodes, deep, gritty, full of raw emotion on Ain't Too Proud to Beg. The crowd loses it. Women throw themselves toward the stage. David flashes that confident grin, but his eyes look haunted, like he's carrying something heavy no one can see. David joined the Temptations in 1964, replacing Al Bryant. His baritone became the group's powerhouse sound. Hits poured out. My Girl, 1965. I Know I'm Losing You, 1966. I Wish It Would Rain, 1967. He was the star, the one Berry Gordy pushed as the breakout solo talent. But behind the success, David's life spun out of control fast. Rumors started circulating in the late 1960s. People close to the Motown family whispered that David was bisexual, lovers of both men and women, no boundaries. And he was known for his charm and good looks, so he never lacked attention. But the real wild side showed up when the Temptations hit Hollywood for TV appearances and movie cameos in the early 1970s. David started throwing private parties at rented Hollywood Hills houses. These weren't just get-togethers. Cocaine lines covered glass tables. Alcohol flowed like water. Groups of people, men and women, disappeared into bedrooms and bathrooms. Stories from insiders say David was at the center, encouraging open encounters, switching partners without hesitation. One night in 1970, during a late after-party following a TV taping, a Motown executive walked in and saw David entangled with a male guest, while others watched or joined. The executive froze, then quietly backed out. Word reached Berry Gordy's inner circle by morning. Motown moved quickly, and they never went public with anything. Instead, they tightened control. More chaperones on tour, stricter curfews, and a push to keep David's image as the straight, charismatic ladies' man. Any hint of scandal was buried. David's behavior only worsened. Drug arrests, fights, missed shows. He left the Temptations in 1968, tried a solo career, but the chaos followed him. David died on June 1, 1991, from a cocaine overdose in Philadelphia. The official report was straightforward: drug-related heart failure. But people who knew him whispered something darker, that the overdose might have been connected to the lifestyle he never escaped, the one Motown helped hide for years to protect the Temptations' legacy. David Ruffin gave Motown some of its most unforgettable leads, yet his private world was a storm of desire and destruction, when the label chose silence over truth, and that silence lasted long after he was gone. 7. Johnny Bristol. The quiet producer who burned in secret. Finally, we come to the man behind love songs, Lives a Love He Can Never Sing About. It is spring 1970 in the Motown studio at 2648 West Grand Boulevard, Detroit. Johnny Bristol sits at the console, headphones on, tweaking 25 miles for Edwin Starr. The track explodes with energy. He smiles, but his mind races to the evening ahead. Johnny started in the 1950s singing duets as Johnny and Jackie. He joined Motown in 1961, quickly shifting to production. He shaped gems. Someday We'll Be Together for Diana Ross and the Supremes in 1969, a #1 hit. What Does It Take for Junior Walker in 1969. Berry Gordy trusted him completely. He delivered hits consistently. Rumors followed him quietly. Johnny was gay and promiscuous, especially with younger artists he mentored in the studio. One humid afternoon in July 1972, after a long session producing a new track at Motown's Los Angeles office, Johnny invited a promising young male singer to his nearby hotel suite for extra notes. The singer, eager for guidance, arrived. Conversation started professional. Lyrics, melody. Drinks appeared. Tension built. Soon they were intimate on the couch, passion overtaking caution. The encounter was brief but intense. The young artist left conflicted. Word leaked through the grapevine weeks later. Motown executives learned fast. They confronted Johnny privately. No public fallout. His talent was irreplaceable. They reassigned the young singer to another producer and warned Johnny to be more careful. And the label buried the incident to keep their hitmaker safe and productive. Johnny left Motown in 1973 for MGM, scoring his solo hit Hang On In There Baby in 1974. But the pressure lingered. He died on March 21, 2004, from natural causes. Obituaries celebrated his songs, silent on the hidden life. Johnny Bristol crafted love anthems for the world. His own love stayed in the shadows, a quiet tragedy Motown never let surface. The producer who gave voice to desire lived without one. His legacy shines. His truth stayed dark. We've just ripped open the hidden heart of Motown, the 11 black gay artists who poured their souls into those timeless hits, only to have their own truths crushed under the weight of silence and shame. Tony Washington daring to sing Me and Mr. Jones while the label panicked. Eddie Kendricks hiding his storm behind that heavenly voice. David Ruffin lost in chaotic Hollywood nights. Billy Preston turning childhood trauma into fire that burned him alive. Harvey Fuqua mentoring legends while burying his own desires. Marvin Gaye whispering forbidden intimacies in starlit rooms. Paul Williams dancing through despair until he couldn't dance anymore. Johnny Bristol crafting love songs he could never live openly. Norman Whitfield pushing psychedelic boundaries while his personal ones stayed locked. And Jack Ashford shaking the tambourine that moved the world, yet keeping his rhythm private forever. 6. Harvey Fuqua quietly drew young male talents into private beds. What if the man who shaped some of Motown's biggest stars was hiding a life that could have shattered everything? It is 1962 in the bustling Hitsville, USA studio in Detroit. Harvey Fuqua walks in, confident and sharp, ready to guide young talent. He spots Marvin Gaye, a drummer with dreams, and takes him under his wing. Harvey becomes Marvin's mentor, helping him land a Motown contract and produce early hits like Stubborn Kind of Fellow that year. Harvey had already made his mark. He founded the doo-wop group The Moonglows in the 1950s, with classics like Sincerely in 1954. By 1960, he married Gwen Gordy, Barry's sister, and joined Motown as a producer. He worked magic on tracks for Junior. Walker and the All-Stars and the Spinners, crafting that signature soul sound. Everyone saw him as the reliable family man, the steady force keeping artists focused. But after the studio lights dimmed, Harvey's world turned wild. Rumors spread through Motown hallways. Harvey was gay, or at least deeply promiscuous, with strong attractions to men inside the label. He pursued discreet relationships with male colleagues and up-and-coming artists, using his position to build close bonds that crossed lines. One night in late 1965, after a long session at the West Grand Boulevard studio, Harvey hosted a private after-hours gathering in a nearby Detroit apartment. The room filled with young singers and musicians he mentored. Drinks led to drugs, marijuana joints and pills passed around. Clothes hit the floor, bodies intertwined in groups. But Harvey was at the center with a list of lovers that included several promising young male artists he promised to promote. The night stretched into dawn, full of uninhibited encounters that left whispers echoing through the industry. Motown executives caught wind soon after. Berry Gordy, protective of the family image, stepped in quietly. No firings, no scandals. They just reminded Harvey of his value as a producer and buried the stories to keep him in place. His marriage to Gwen ended in 1968, but the label never addressed the rumors. Harvey kept producing until leaving Motown in the 1970s. He died on July 6, 2010, from a heart attack. Motown tributes focused on his music, not his life. The man who lifted so many hid his own truth to stay in the game. But those hidden nights? They were his rebellion against the clean facade. Woo! Marvin Gaye shared hidden Hollywood nights with men under the stars. Can you imagine the voice of sexual healing hiding a side that Motown feared most? It is May 21st, 1971, and Marvin Gaye releases What's Going On, a groundbreaking album tackling war, poverty, and inner turmoil. Recorded at Hitsville after hours of intense sessions, it becomes a masterpiece, hitting #1 on the R&B charts and selling millions. Marvin started at Motown in 1961 as a session drummer, marrying Berry Gordy's sister Anna that year. He rose fast with hits like How Sweet It Is in 1964 and I Heard It Through the Grapevine in 1968. His voice was velvet fire, smooth, passionate, irresistible. Berry Gordy crowned him the Prince of Soul, the ultimate ladies' man with crossover appeal. Yet after What's Going On, whispers grew louder. Marvin entered a bisexual phase, or so the rumors went, drawn to men amid his Hollywood circle. He battled inner demons, depression, drug addiction, and sought escape in wild nights. One explosive story comes from producer Quincy Jones in a 2018 interview. Marvin allegedly had an intimate affair with actor Marlon Brando. Picture 1972 at a star-studded Hollywood Hills party hosted by Brando after a film premiere. Cocaine trays circulated, music blared. Guests included industry insiders. Marvin arrived high, charisma on full blast. As the night deepened, he and Brando vanished into a private room. Hours later, guests heard moans and laughter. The encounter fueled weeks of gossip. Marvin with both men and women that night, no limits. Motown panicked when rumors reached Detroit. Executives met urgently, deciding to bury it all. They ramped up Marvin's image as the sensual straight icon, promoting albums like Let's Get It On in 1973 with steamy themes aimed at women. No leaks, no questions. Marvin's life spiraled with cocaine addiction and paranoia. He died on April 1, 1984, shot by his father during an argument. The official narrative focused on family tragedy, not his hidden desires. Motown protected the Prince of Soul legacy at any cost. Those Hollywood nights? They were the freedom he craved but could never claim. 4. Paul Williams, dove into frantic group hookups to drown his pain. Oh, the pain of it all, the man who lit up stages with his moves, crumbling in silence. It is August 17, 1973, in a quiet Detroit alley near the city's west side. Paul Williams, once the heart of the Temptations' choreography, parks his car. He pulls out a gun, points it at his head, and pulls the trigger. He is 34. The news hits like a thunderclap, but Motown spins it as a tragic accident or simple suicide. No one mentions the deeper storm. Paul joined the Temptations in 1960, bringing his baritone voice and sharp dance steps. He was the group's original lead on early hits like Don't Look Back in 1965. Fans adored his energy, the way he glided across stages at venues like the Apollo in New York or the Fox in Detroit during the 1964 tour. Berry Gordy saw him as the reliable one, the glue holding the group's polished image together. Paul married young, had kids, fit the family man mold perfectly. But depression gripped him early. By the late 1960s, alcohol became his escape. He missed rehearsals, showed up late to shows. Rumors whispered through Motown. Paul lived a wild, promiscuous life to mask his queer identity. He sought solace in hidden encounters, using the chaos to bury his true self. One night in 1971, after a grueling session at Hitsville, Paul hosted a secret gathering at a rented house in Detroit suburbs. The room filled with close friends and strangers, men mostly. Bottles emptied fast. Drugs circulated. Bodies formed groups. Clothes discarded in piles. Paul was in the middle, lost in the frenzy, chasing numbness. It lasted until morning, a desperate bid to drown the inner turmoil. Motown heard fragments. Executives pulled Paul aside, warned him. They covered it up. No police, no press, to keep the Temptations' clean image intact. His health declined. Sickle cell anemia worsened the depression. When he died in 1973, Motown issued a brief statement: accidental shooting. They hid the autopsy details linking it to his struggles, including the alcohol-fueled despair and rumored lifestyle. Funerals came, tributes rolled, but the full truth stayed buried. Paul Williams gave Motown its rhythm. In return, they erased his pain. His story is a heartbreaking reminder. Fame's spotlight casts the longest shadows. 2. Norman Whitfield vanished into club backrooms for intense male encounters. Who knew the architect of Motown's boldest sounds hid a life as turbulent as his music? It is 1968 in the Hitsville control room. Norman Whitfield huddles with the Temptations, crafting Cloud 9. Psychedelic guitars wail, drums pound. The track wins a Grammy in 1969, shifting Motown into edgier territory. Norman grins. His vision is alive. Norman joined Motown in 1963 as a songwriter and producer. He started with Too Many Fish in the Sea for the Marvelettes in 1964. By 1966, he took over Temptations' production, delivering Ain't Too Proud to Beg. His psychedelic soul era peaked with Papa Was a Rollin' Stone in 1972, another Grammy winner. And Berry Gordy relied on him to evolve the sound, keeping Motown relevant amid rock and funk waves. Rumors dogged him. Norman was queer with a promiscuous backstage life that fueled his creative fire. He sought male companions discreetly, away from the label's watchful eyes. One steamy night in 1970, after a marathon session at the Detroit studio producing for Rare Earth, Norman slipped away to an underground club in the city's Cass corridor. Dim lights, throbbing bass from hidden speakers. He met a male admirer there, a young session musician he knew from Motown circles. Drinks led to a back room. Passion ignited fast, intense, no words needed. The encounter was part of a pattern. Norman's lovers often came from the industry, drawn to his power. Word reached executives weeks later through a leaked story. Motown silenced it immediately. And Norman was too crucial. His psychedelic hits like Psychedelic Shack in 1970 kept the label competitive. They buried the rumors, focusing on his genius instead. Norman left Motown in 1975 for his own label, scoring with Rolls-Royce's Car Wash in 1976. But the pressure took a toll. He died on September 16, 2008, from diabetes complications. Tributes celebrated his innovations, ignoring the personal battles. Norman Whitfield revolutionized soul. Yet his hidden desires were a quiet rebellion against Motown's straitjacket. The man who pushed boundaries in music lived them in life, tragic, untold, forever shadowed. 1. Jack Ashford kept low-key male liaisons tucked behind the tambourine 1964 inside Hitsville, USA, at 2648 West Grand Boulevard in Detroit. Jack Ashford arrives for his first session, vibraphone and percussion kit in tow. And he sets up in the basement studio where the Funk Brothers are already warming up. Berry Gordy nods approval. Jack's jazz roots from Philadelphia and Boston make him perfect for the evolving Motown sound. Jack Ashford, born May 18, 1934, started as a vibraphonist influenced by Milt Jackson and Lionel Hampton. He gigged in jazz clubs before Harvey Fuqua introduced him to Marvin Gaye, who urged him to join Motown in 1963. Jack became the go-to percussionist for the Funk Brothers, playing tambourine, vibes, and kazoo on legendary tracks. His tambourine drives Nowhere to Run by Martha and the Vandellas vibes shimmer on Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, and his rhythm pulses through I Heard It Through the Grapevine, 1968, and You Can't Hurry Love by the Supremes. He earned Grammy nods and Lifetime awards for his contributions. To the outside world, Jack was the steady, professional funk brother, married to Charlene Ashford, co-author of his 2003 book, Motown, The View from the Bottom, Father, and Family Man. He spoke openly in interviews about jazz influences, studio life, and the band's undercredited role. But in Motown's tight-knit circle, quiet rumors persisted. Jack had a private side, possibly queer, or with discreet same-sex attractions, that he kept hidden amid the label's strict family image. One late-night session in 1967, after laying down percussion for a rare earth track, Jack lingered in the studio lounge with a few trusted bandmates and a young male assistant engineer. The room was dim, cigarette smoke thick. Conversation turned personal, jokes about life on the road, shared drinks. Whispers say Jack shared intimate moments with the engineer. A fleeting connection that stayed between them. It was not the only time. Stories from the era hint at discreet relationships with men in the industry, away from prying eyes. Motown executives never addressed it. Jack was essential, the Funk Brothers' backbone. Berry Gordy focused on the music, not personal lives. Any rumor was ignored to protect the group's legacy and the label's crossover success. Jack left Motown in the 1970s, worked with Norman Whitfield, then relocated to Memphis. He reunited with the Funk Brothers for Standing in the Shadows of Motown, 2002, earning Grammy recognition. He died in recent years. As of 2026, he was one of the last surviving Funk Brothers in his 90s. Jack Ashford's tambourine shook souls worldwide. His personal truths? They remained in the shadows, a quiet part of Motown's untold history. But the man who gave rhythm to legends kept his own beat private. These men didn't just survive, they defied an era that would have destroyed them for being themselves. They gave Motown its heartbeat, its crossover magic, its legacy. And in return, the empire they helped build erased them to protect the family illusion. The pain is unbearable. The betrayal cuts deep. The silence is deafening. How many more stories are still buried? How many lights were dimmed so the machine could keep shining? This isn't just history. It's heartbreak, it's rage, it's a call to remember. Now it's your turn. Comment below, right now. Which story broke your heart the most? Whose name are you furious Motown tried to forget? Do you feel the weight of what they carried? Share it. Let it out. If this shook you to your core, if it made your chest tight, your eyes burn, your fists clench, hit like so these truths reach more people. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you for feeling this with me. Black Legends Files, out, but the fight continues.